Geography is a subject with concept clarity, and once you clear your concept, you can very well understand the actual crux which the examiner is asking. Our entire intent during the course is to crack the UPSC exam, and with that, we can start with something of a conceptual class, which is a part of climatology. And I must say that this concept keeps on coming in the entire geographical concept, especially in the physical geography and climatology, multiple times. And its own effect has been seen both at the economic, both in agriculture and other small areas, and that can be caused to this one single concept, which is inversion of temperature. Now, as the name suggests, it says that something is going to get inverted. That is, something which was going up will now start going down. So we have to understand this concept, that where and how this terminology comes into picture. Going forward, one of the questions which had come in UPSC, that what do you understand by phenomena of temperature inversion in meteorology, and how does it affect weather and habitants of the place? Now this is the UPSC question, and we are trying to understand that how and what kind of conceptual clarity do we need to answer these questions. Let's break this question. This question's first demand is that uh, demand is your understanding of the phenomena of temperature inversion. And are you aware of the concept? Now, if you are aware of the concept, then how is it going to affect the weather and the habitants of the place, the people? That is the if it is going to affect the habitants of the place, then it is going to affect the economy of the place. When they're affecting the weather of the place, then it means at various seasons, at various times, how is that going to affect? There must be different kind of impact of a temperature of inversion at different conditions. Like in a hilly area, it will be different. In a plain area, it will be different. At a tropical climate zone, it will be different. Temperate climate zone, it will be different. Or if whether it exists or not. So we have to understand first the concept. What is the actual concept of temperature inversion? And second, we understand at various geography, what are the types of temperature inversion happens, and how is that concept is valid for that them to be called as temperature inversion phenomena, and how it is going to affect the economic and the habitants of that geographical zone. So this is the entire storyline of the concept. So now I'm sure you must have read in the previous topic about the various layers that are there in the atmosphere in the climatology, and then we spoke about the lapse rate. We know that the heavier gases, like carbon dioxide and all, is dense, and dense classes gases will be at the bottom, and hot air rises up. And we also know one point, that in the troposphere you can see that this red line this red line shows that with increase of height, as we go up, the temperature is decreasing. The temperature is decreasing. As we go up, the temperature is decreasing. So, and it is a slope. Please remember this as the first concept. When we are talking of inversion of temperature concept, most of it's going to happen in this zone only, troposphere, and that is where it matters to us, because we have to know the impact on the human habitant. So do you know that have you seen anyone staying in stratosphere or mesosphere or thermosphere? Exactly, no. We know that human stays here near the surface, and it is called as troposphere. So we have to understand that we are going to talk about it, and this phenomena is being questioned. When this phenomena of as we go with height, the temperature decreases is altered, that is called, or that is where it is understood as inversion of temperature. That means as we go up, the increase in temperature happens. That phenomena is considered as inversion of temperature. So this is shown in this diagram that this due to this inversion layer, as we go up, instead of temperature decreasing, like here it is decreasing, as we go up, the temperature has increased. We'll understand the reason why it has increased. And this bend of the slope, otherwise it would have been a slope. This bend is called as, or understood as, temperature inversion has taken place. This exactly is where the concept needs to be understood. Very simple, that in normal times or normal lapse rate, we understand that from ground level to height, the temperature decreases. As we go up, the temperature decreases. But in condition like temperature inversion, as we go up, the temperature increases. This concept is now very clear with us. Now, temperature inversion, as I mentioned, it's very simple that it gets hot instead cold when you go up, and this reversal of the normal behavior of temperature in the troposphere is where in which a layer of cool air at the surface is overlain by a layer of warmer air. This is called as temperature of inversion. So I just read out this slide. Basically, it's the concept is very simple, and as you go up, something happens, and instead of temperature going down, temperature increases, and that is called as temperature inversion. Now we time and again I'm going to tell you the same thing, because once we are very clear that how altitude or height or temperature behave in with each other, is where how we mark the zone of temperature inversion. Remember the first photo which you saw in the start of the slide, start of the session, that whole foggy thing. Where does that happen and how does that happen? That is where the air is trapped. That is how, that is the reason why when we say that funnel effect has happened, it's an inversion of temperature happening, the cloudy thing which you saw, and we will understand it when I explain on the types of temperature inversion. So we are aware that when we talk of climatology, few things, that is conduction, convection, and about these terminologies, and if we are not aware, then we'll go to the basic concepts again. And we are aware about the lapse rate, normal lapse rate, that is with increase of height, temperature decreases, and that is at every 165 meter, 1 degree temperature goes down, or at every this is what is the normal lapse rate. So with that, and temperature inversion is that warm air moves over the cool air, or cold dense air sinks under warm air, and this is how, when if the warm pocket is above the cold air, then temperature at the cold air is less and warm air is more. So as we go up, the temperature increases, hence creating the condition of inversion of temperature. So what happens is this inversion of temperature, this yellow line which you see, The yellow line which you see is the warm air. In normal scenario, warm air, cool air and cold air, that's how the temperature happens. But in inversion time, there is the warm air is above the cold air, thus creating this foggy thing, and this actually doesn't allow escaping of the dust and causes more pollution. And if you remember that every year during Diwali or something in India, especially in Delhi NCR, you'll see smog coming in, a foggy winter morning, and it has this concept is happening at various non hilly areas as well, and this is due to that the cold air, or maybe in even Mumbai sometimes, or in Chennai, sometimes wherever there is ocean also, due to this temperature or the warm air uh, above the cold air causes this fogginess or causes the trapping of pollutants, making it much difficult for air to breathe. This is one of the effects of temperature inversion. So what are the ideal conditions for temperature inversion? Long nights so that the outgoing radiation is clearer than the incoming radiation. Clear skies which allow unobstructed escape of radiation. Calm and stable air so that there is no vertical mixing at lower level. So when there is stability happening in the air, the word stability is again a terminology in geography as well. So when it is the calm condition, during that time, when non-turbulence is there, temperature inversion may happen. So I'm sure that as I gave you the example of Indian cities where this happened, and many of you would be also staying or would have experienced it, especially in the winter time, that morning is a little hazy or little dusty, and but this is because of the uh, inversion of temperature. So what are the types of inversion temperature? So while this is a conceptual class, so what happens is when we start reading about precipitation and humidity and all these elements, different types of precipitation, we will come back again in this concept, and that time you'll realize that the effects are how uh, it affects the economic impact of the thing. And today I'm just naming them: that temperature inversion in Intermon value or air drainage effect. That is when the cool air is dense, it comes down, and in the night time it is stable at the lower level, whereas the warm air is at the up. So every time in the morning you see that there is this foggy morning, the first image which I showed in the starting of the session. So those type of temperature inversion is called in the intermontane valley. That is one type. Second is ground inversion, that is surface temperature, where you saw that in the cities what happens, that suddenly warm air comes in between the cold air, and it traps the pollutant, and that's how it creates lot of haze, lot of poor air quality. Third is subsistence inversion or upper surface temperature inversion. Now this, for this to understand, currently we are yet to understand various atmospheric belts and various temperature and pressure belts and behavior of the uh, air parcels. So you'll understand more when we go there, but you can remember the terminology. And again, this the frontal inversion, and this again needs the conceptual clarity of couple of concepts. Firstly, the air mass. Second, advection, convection. So once we understand that, we will be able to appreciate the fact that at any of these conditions, wherever warm air comes on top of cold air, temperature inversion happens. So one of the most important effect is that that the precipitation, the cloud formation, or the stability of the weather of that day is impacted by the inversion. Again, because inversion has happened, you won't see that hey, long rain would happen. It'll just a very small, because for rain formation, when you understand that temperature inversion creates the difficulty for cloud to precipitate. So one of the biggest economic impact of this is that the fog affects the vegetation and human settlement. The dust particle which is formed or is in the area which doesn't escape, creates a lot of uh, health hazards to the inhabitants. But you also would understand that why, if a question comes in prelims that uh, apple or coffee is grown in the slopes, why not in the valley? You now understand for what they want to escape inversion of temperature. That's why they're grown at the slope. If they had to grow in the valley, then they will never grow because they will be trapped with pollutant and you'll never get a good oxygenated air because of inversion of temperature.